What's up guys, Jimmy here, and today I want to answer the question, how bad is Ryu in Season 4? I've made this type of video twice already with Season 2 and Season 3. I explained in depth how Ryu went from being one of the best characters in Season 1 to being one of the worst characters in Season 2 and 3. And a lot of people still think Ryu is basically in the same spot in Season 4. So here are my thoughts on this topic. So if you're looking for a short answer for how bad Ryu is in Season 4, then the answer is no, he's not that bad anymore. He actually received some significant buffs, some of the top tiers received significant nerfs that made Ryu a lot better. He has some issues still, but it's definitely significant. I would not at all be surprised if we see a Ryu in top 8 at a CPT event. So there are two main changes that occurred for Ryu in Season 4 that made Ryu a lot better. It's the changes to the Fireball game and the changes to the Donkey Kick special move. So first let's start with the Fireball game and how it works in Season 4. When I first read about the Fireball changes and the better recovery on them, the changes to the light and the heavy Fireball, all of that sounded amazing because if you make a Fireball better, then that has a major impact on gameplay usually. But it was a little bit underwhelming when I started playing around with it. I felt like the main disadvantage of the Fireball is still there. Like the risk throwing one is so massive still because of how Street Fighter V works and how many anti-fireball tools the characters have. But still, the fireballs are definitely better, and I especially like the light fireball. The slower you make a projectile, the more threatening it becomes. It's kind of funny how it works. I think you would naturally think it would be the other way around, but that's how it works. If you make a fireball really slow, then it gives you a lot of time to just chase after your own fireball and kind of use it like a wall. We can see that with Guile players a lot in a Light Sonic Boom. So as a result, Ryu actually gains access to a corner lock situation against a lot of characters where you can just spam fireballs all day, and if they jump forward you can always anti-air still. It's kind of funny how this works, and in order to avoid the situation, the opponent has to neutral jump, and then he can punish with a jump in if you keep throwing the fireball. But as long as the opponent is in the corner blocking the fireball, you can safely throw a second one. It's kind of amazing, and when I realized this, I started to take a closer look at that, experiment a lot with that, and I noticed that a lot of people will crack under the pressure. I mean, it's not really that big of a deal. It shouldn't be that big of a deal, but it kind of is. It gets the opponent to jump a lot, you get anti-air, free anti-air situations, and afterwards you get Oki in the corners. So that's actually a big deal for Ryu. So now let's talk about the Donkey Kick changes for Ryu, and I definitely want to focus on the light Donkey Kick. It's by far the most significant change for Ryu in Season 4. One of the reasons why Ryu was considered such a weak character in Season 2 and 3 was the fact that he relies on constantly winning interactions in the footsie battle in order to get the win. And if you compare that to characters like Akuma or Kami, they really don't do that. They just win one interaction in the footsie battle, they get a weird whiff punish, and then they have knockdown, they have pressure on wake up. And this type of aggressive gameplay is really favored in Street Fighter V. Ryu doesn't really get that, so he was at a disadvantage in Season 2 and 3. So this dynamic really changed in Season 4 with the light Donkey Kick, in particular in combination with the standing light kick. The standing light kick of Ryu is an amazing tool. It has a better range than most medium attacks for any character, and on top of that it combos into light Donkey Kick. As a result, it's a perfect tool for whiff punishes, and it's something I even underestimated when I first saw the patch notes in Season 4. Keep in mind the light Donkey Kick will whiff from certain ranges. If you're using it as a buffer tool from standing light kick, you've got to really know where to stand, what kind of buttons you're looking to whiff punish, so it's a tool for high level players and not so much for casuals. So a lot of mid-screen interactions will now lead into a light Donkey Kick. That leads to a little bit of damage, corner carry, and you can safely throw like a light fireball and get a little bit of pressure out of that. That's a very interesting way to buff Ryu in my opinion, because I initially thought you kind of have to make Ryu, you have to turn him into either Akuma or Guile if you want to make him viable, but this way Ryu can get something out of the footsie battle, mainly corner carry, and as I said earlier, if you get corner control, his fireball game is enhanced by a lot, against a lot of characters anyways. So that was a very thoughtful way of buffing Ryu, and it's very meaningful as well. Ryu does get an advantage out of that, and I'm very happy about that. But yeah, it's not just the light donkey kick that received this buff. Every donkey kick got a lot better, every donkey kick has a reason to exist now, and in a lot of cases Ryu gets more out of interactions, especially from like comboing from far away is a lot easier in Season 4 for Ryu. Even if you want to do high damage, as long as you can combo into crouching medium punch for example, you can always convert into EX donkey kick, into Shoryuken, that deals a lot of damage. You get okay, yeah, you get that, and that's really good, Those are like small but very significant buffs. So yeah, Ryu received some other minor changes like getting Oki on EX Tatsu for example. Those are all nice, but not as significant as the Fireball and the Donkey Kick changes. So now let's talk about why I still think Ryu has a couple of issues in Season 4. When I say a couple of issues, I really only mean one big issue, and that is Birdie. The matchup against Birdie is impossible. It's at best a 7-3 matchup, and that really makes it hard to recommend Ryu for competitive play, especially if you consider how good Birdie is in Season 4. Birdie is definitely one of the strongest characters in Season 4, and if you can't win as Ryu against Birdie, then you can't really win a tournament with him. You will face a Birdie at some point, and I think any competent Birdie player should cleanly win against any strong Ryu player. So this is something I've noticed pretty early on in Season 4, but I wasn't really sure if it was just me, maybe I just didn't know how to play the matchup. Like subtle changes in spacing can have a very big impact on the outcome of a match. But Daigo, for example, said the exact same thing. He actually said that he'd play Ryu in Season 4 if the Birdie matchup was better. The Birdie matchup is just too bad for Ryu, so he can't play him competitively. And it's always nice seeing two players coming to the same conclusion independently. So I can be pretty confident when I say this matchup is really bad for Ryu. I'm probably going to do a dedicated video on the matchup versus Birdie, so I can explain my full thoughts on the matchup, what to do there, where you want to stand, when to take risks. All of that is very important, and you've got to always keep in mind, as long as you have a read on your opponent's habits, you can always turn a bad matchup around to something playable and winnable. So Ryu has some other bad matchups like Dalsum or Fang, but those are really not that big of a deal simply because they're not popular. So if you go to a tournament, it's unlikely for you to face a Dalsum or a Fang player. And honestly, if you compare Ryu to other characters, you notice that all of them really have a couple of bad matchups. The only problem for Ryu really is that his worst matchup happens to be a strong character, and I think there's a lesson to be learned here when it comes to character balancing, because Birdie is very strong, and because of that, as a direct result, Ryu is a little bit weak. So you could buff Ryu simply by nerfing Birdie, and that's quite an interesting thought. It's something we should all really think about when we make suggestions for balancing. If you make certain strong characters weaker, you might end up making another character way too strong. There might be a problematic character in the cast right now that loses to Akuma and Birdie, let's say, and just because of that, we don't see the character. And this is why balancing is so difficult. You can't just make the weak characters stronger and the strong characters weaker. It doesn't really work that way. You will always have this top tiers, and because they're determined by how many good and bad matchups they have and whether or not the good matchups are against strong characters. So yeah guys, I think I'll leave it at that. I've rambled on for way too long anyways. TLDR is, Ryu is pretty good in Season 4, it's just Birdie that's really in his way to make him a competitive and viable character. So yeah, guys, let me know what you think about Ryu in Season 4. What are your expectations for the Capcom Pro Tour? Do you think we will see a Ryu in top 8 or maybe even taking a CPT event? That would be amazing. What are your expectations? What are your experiences with the character so far? any and all thoughts in the comments below. So thanks a lot for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.